The Dred Scott versus Sandford case of 1857 over the freedom of the slave Dred Scott resulted in several court rulings that further restricted the freedom of slaves and widened the rift between the North and South. Dred Scott, an African-American slave, came into the ownership of an army surgeon named Dr. John Emerson. In 1834, Dr. Emerson brought Scott with him to the Free State of Illinois. The fact that Illinois was a state in which slavery was prohibited gave Scott legal standing to make a claim for his freedom. In 1836, Scott moved with Dr. Emerson to the Wisconsin Territory, another free state, further enforcing his claim. Upon Emerson's death, Dred Scott, assisted by abolitionist lawyers, went to the court to sue for his freedom. The trial began in 1847 in a small state courts and finally 10 years later was brought before the Supreme Court. However, the odds were against Scott as 7 of the 9 justices at that time were appointed by pro-slavery presidents. Scott was denied freedom, and the rulings that came out of his case was the most controversial of its time. The court ruled that federal government had no power to prohibit slavery in the states. It was decided that people of African ancestry, free slaves included, could never become U.S. citizens and therefore had no right to sue in federal court. This case was significant in that it completely turned back the rights and the statuses of free African Americans, despite the fact that black men in 5 states had full voting rights of citizens. The court's decision was well received by the slavery-dependent South, but outraged by the Northerners. This would go on to influence the nomination of Abraham Lincoln to the Republican Party. The Dred Scott decision served to widen the political and social gap between the North and South, bringing America closer to the brink of civil war.